talking today about strategies for dealing with toxic people. And unless you never leave your house, you're going to run into toxic people. So we're going to learn different ways of dealing with toxic people. And don't be mistaken, toxic people can be just as damaging to your health as toxins in our environment. We all understand that there are certain chemicals in our environment, in our food, in our personal care products that are not necessarily safe. And we try to take care of ourselves, eliminate those things. And we do that for our health, but toxic people can have a definitive negative effect on our health. Why? Because you're dealing with constant stress. And if you've ever been around a toxic person, you can't relax, you don't rest well. And it puts your whole nervous system in a state of constant hypervigilance. You're always expecting conflict. You're expecting to be demeaned, shown contempt, attacked, or otherwise have your boundaries violated. And that's just not a healthy way for you to live. You'll be more prone to immune system issues. You're going to be more prone to sleep disturbance. And if you look at the actual data, the research, which anyone can do, by the way, not just medical personnel, you can go on PubMed, you can go on Google Scholar, and you could look it up, and you'll find that the stress of toxic relationships is highly correlated with various health issues. So it's fairly imperative that we take a look at the people we allow in our lives and the people we allow to influence our lives. And even if we can't remove them, because maybe you have a toxic boss and presently you haven't found a new job and you've got to deal with that in the interim between now and then, you need strategies for how to deal with the people that you cannot escape from. So the first thing I want you to understand is to use your energy, okay? Everybody, I believe, has intuition. They have the ability to read energy coming off of other people. And I think that we've all had that experience where we've entered a room, we start talking with someone, and there's nothing overt that we can pinpoint about why this individual is making us nervous, or why sometimes we feel afraid of them. Sometimes we just have a caution and we feel like there's a big red flag waving, like this person is not safe, and we have no idea why. And I think sometimes you're just reading that energy, and you feel it. You feel it at the core of who you are, and you're not sure why. Listen to that. If your intuition is telling you that someone's dangerous, that someone's lying to you, listen very carefully. Your intuition is usually right. And I think a lot of times we ignore those energetic signs. I had a boyfriend. He seemed like a really nice person. And I have a nervous tic. I still have it. And it comes out if I have to use the bathroom real bad, if I feel like I'm unsafe for some reason. And there's other, if I'm really hungry, it creates nervous energy in my body. But when I dated this man, I continually had this nervous tic. My shoulder would twitch and tense and twitch. And he would say, "Why do you do that?" I'd be like, "I don't know." And my subconscious mind was actually reading subtle cues, don't ask me how, that this man was not safe for me. And it turns out he ended up being a cheater. And it was very devastating to me. And then looking back over it, I could see that there were clues to lying that was going on that I, on a conscious level, just didn't want to see. But my subconscious mind was picking that up. So listen, your mind is invested in protecting you. It's also good to check for a trauma trigger. Sometimes we think there's a problem, but we're actually being triggered by something that happened in our past. For example, if you had a kid in school who bullied you in a red cable knit sweater, you meet somebody with a red cable knit sweater, it might not be the person, but I think you're always good to err on the side of caution. And then we're going to talk about some red flags. So when you first meet somebody, it's better if you don't actually get in a relationship with that individual to begin with. So how do you know? What are the red flags you should be looking for when you are meeting new people? So one of the most dangerous personalities as far as allowing an individual in our life is called the dark triad personality. I first heard about this about 6 months ago on a podcast. And the podcaster was actually talking about how women, young women in particular, tend to be actually highly attracted to the dark triad personality. And then as women get older, they've been wounded enough by this particular personality that at this point they're like, I have had enough. I want myself a good man. But it doesn't really just apply to dating and relationships. It also applies to anyone. You know, in a work situation, in a friendship situation, in a social group like a yoga class, you could run into these people and you need to protect yourself from them. They create a lot of conflict and drama. So the first thing people do when they have this dark triad personality is they do what's called victim signaling. They're always pointing out what a victim they are to external circumstances and trying to get attention from other people. We all know someone like this, or in even the past or present, but they're perpetually the victim. A lot of times nothing is really ever their fault. It's someone else's. And I heard a saying once, it was years ago, and I don't remember who said it, but I love it. And I've said it a million times to people. If Bob, it's called the Bob rule. If Bob has a problem with everyone else, the problem is probably Bob, okay? I've actually told a couple people that had this sort of personality, have you ever heard of the Bob rule? They don't usually like that because they kind of know you're referring to them, but sometimes I'll get bold and I'll ask them if they've heard of the Bob rule. So another thing a person with a dark triad personality would do is they'll cheat for personal gain. Okay, that means they're gonna spend $40,000 in credit card debt. Not because they're immature or financially responsible, because they don't care, and then file for bankruptcy. They'll file false insurance claims. They will cheat on their partner for personal gain. So be looking out for that, even if you're not, entering into a romantic relationship with an individual. If you have a friend doing this, if your boss is doing this, it means you need to be cautious. That person really can't be trusted. Exaggerates the negative qualities that they don't like about others. In men, all of his ex-girlfriends were crazy. That's a huge red flag. All of my other friends were crazy. Every employee, for employers, every employee I've ever had was lazy. It's never them. It's always other people. They are the victim. Rewards obsession, or has a reward obsession, okay, meaning they want rewards, they're highly competitive, aggressively ambitious. I'm going to step on other people to get where I need to be in life. I don't care if I hurt other people. And emotionally distant. You can't really connect. You're hurting. You want to talk about your problems. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to talk about their problems because they are uncomfortable being vulnerable, and for some people even admitting that they might have a vulnerability. So they won't open up about their feelings. And they see others for what, notice I put he here, maybe I shouldn't have, because it's really not just men, but they see others for what they can get out of them, okay? I always tell women, if you really want to know what a good litmus test is for whether you should stay with a man, you should think about it this way. If you got cancer and all your hair fell out and you're unattractive now, I don't think women without hair are unattractive if they have cancer, but comparatively speaking, you're no longer as attractive as you were when you met this man. You can no longer do the things for him you used to do. You're sick, maybe you're undergoing treatment. Is he going to stick around? Or is it all about him? Does he care enough about you to take care of you when you're struggling? That's something to think about. The answer is no. Even with a friendship, you need to seriously consider whether that's a relationship you want to be in. Dark triad personalities have a dehumanizing view of other people. They see them almost as less than valuable. They love admiration. They want to be the center of attention, the life of the party. And then they'll generate a lot of drama and conflict in their effort to get all these things, to put themselves first, to be ambitious, to win, to hide their emotions. They're going to do whatever it takes, and they create a lot of drama and conflict. They're always right. So your point of view is irrelevant, and all their problems are other people's fault. So what do you do when you have a person like this in your life and you cannot remove yourself? Okay. First of all, ask yourself, is it really true that I can't remove themselves? I see a lot of women who are like, well, I can't necessarily get out of this relationship. Sometimes that's true. It really is. Or that they can get out of it, they just can't get out of it right now, but they're working towards that goal. But if it is true, what do you do? So there's something called the gray rock technique. And the gray rock technique is basically when that individual and all the drama and conflict they can create ceases to matter to you. If you can think about a gray rock is emotionless, it's hard, it's impenetrable. So you basically detach yourself emotionally from this individual. It's not easy, but once you've done it, it gives you a level of freedom you can't imagine. And when they're coming at you with this conflict and with this drama, you actually think to yourself, you just kind of embody a gray rock. You just think, I'm a gray rock. You can't penetrate me. Nothing you say bothers me because I don't care, because gray rocks don't really care. I mean, it's as weird as that sounds. If you're doing the program, you understand the power of the subconscious mind, you understand the power of changing your thinking. And just thinking about yourself as invincible, like a gray rock, alters the way, what they have to say. It's just going to bounce. Or you could picture yourself with a barrier, a shield. And I used to tell children I would work with in hypnosis, little girls in particular. I had one little girl who, her dad was the one. I mean, she can't get away from her dad, right? At least not now. The mom and dad were trying to work on their marriage, but her dad would just criticize and nitpick everything this little girl did. And she was like 8, and it was really beating down her self-esteem. The mom's not wanting to get a divorce right now, so she's stuck. So I had her picture this visual metaphor of being Wonder Woman. She really liked Wonder Woman. And so dad says something critical, hurtful, and she just would hold up her wrist, ping, and it would bounce off all of his hurtful words. And, and it doesn't matter if he's hurling them, you didn't do your homework, you didn't clean your room. What's the matter with you? You're lazy, you're stupid. She would just raise up her wrist in her mind and all of these would just bzz, bzz, right off of her. And this was so powerful for this little girl. His criticism ceased to bother her, and it ceased to undermine what we were trying to do together in giving her a sense of self-worth. So these visual metaphors really help. So don't feel weird about picturing yourself as that gray rock. It's a very powerful technique. I am now, completely emotionally distant from a certain family member that I probably am not going to remove from my life, but they can say whatever they want. Their opinion of me is completely irrelevant. I don't care. It doesn't affect me emotionally. They could call me a bitch, any kind of negative name means nothing to me. I have no emotional response. And you could actually get that way. And you need to stand up for yourself. Okay, so the gray rock technique is great when no matter what you say, it isn't going to make a difference. We all know those people. They will turn it around on you no matter what. Doesn't mean you can't stand up for yourself. If you can see they're not listening, then become the gray rock. But you can also stand up for yourself and set that boundary, and have, not caring and emotionally distancing yourself is standing up for yourself. Silence sometimes is standing up for yourself. The key is I'm going to refuse to be affected by this individual's behavior anymore. I'm putting up a shield, a barrier. Because when you do not stand up for yourself, you're actually going to create anxiety in your subconscious mind, because your mind knows you cannot be trusted to protect yourself. I'm going to continue to be a doormat. I've made the decision to continue to put myself in situations where I'm being emotionally, physically, spiritually harmed. I'm not talking about the situations you can't get out of. Your mind knows you can't be trusted, and it's going to create anxiety. Why? Because anxiety is the mind's attempt to get you to take action, and change that circumstance in your life. If you remember from the course, we talked about when you get a negative emotion, there's 3 reasons, 3 loving messages your mind might be sending you. 1, something in your past needs to be healed. 2, something in your present needs to change. Removing a toxic person might just be that. Or 3, you've got limiting beliefs that are toxic to your mind and they need to be taken care of. So how do you deal with people? You're forced to deal with that toxic coworker or that toxic neighbor. You don't want to move, and they're not moving, and you're going to come into conflict with them once in a while, and they're very caustic. First of all, what you need to think about is to maintain a confident physiology. That means you should stand up tall, put your shoulders back, your chin up. You know, you see your neighbors setting across the lawn to talk to you with an angry face. What we want to do is kind of shrink back. Oh my God, here he comes. What now? You know, instead, just throw your shoulders back, stand tall, put your chin up, and walk boldly at him. Don't back up, don't back down. There's no reason for you to not be confident. You're not doing anything wrong. And what he has to say to you, it's not going to bother you. You're a gray rock. You're impenetrable. Use power phrases. Now, my definition for a power phrase is when you actually point out the psychological motivation behind a person's disrespect. This is incredibly powerful. Get ready for pissing people off, though, I can tell you. But usually they will back down and they will not even know what to say. My daughter, she moved from a private school to a public school. She's very cute, and girls instantly were jealous, and she got lambasted with mean girl attacks. And she was a master at doing this. And it took about 3 weeks before people stopped messing with her. They probably talked about her behind her back, but they didn't do it in public anymore because they came off looking like an idiot every time. So, and here's just a few power phrases, and I'm recording this, so you will have access to this and you could write it down. You could watch the video again later. But, you know, when someone's really putting you down and criticizing, you just calmly look at them and say, so does it make you feel better about yourself when you put other people down like this? This is especially great in public. And you feel really great saying it. I mean, you do. Like, especially in a group, if someone's just being shitty to you and you say this and everybody in the group goes, ooh, you know, you feel kind of like, I just not putting up with your shit, you know? And then you can ask them, you know, are you deliberately trying to make me feel uncomfortable? Are you deliberately trying to make me feel bad? Are you trying to hurt me with your words? Because you know when someone's being vindictive and you're pointing out what they're actually doing. And then this is my favorite. This is what I do. And this will work with people that are not, you know, sociopaths, psychopaths, dark triad. You kind of have to ignore most of what a dark triad individual does and remove them as soon as possible. But when I'm in a situation of conflict, the one thing that I no longer tolerate whenever possible is people disrespecting me. I've had enough of it. I spent years in a religious cult where women were stupid and we had no rights and the men ruled and you weren't supposed to speak up or argue. And nowadays, everybody's so easily offended, you're going to run into this a lot. And so I just say when someone gets in my face, they're disrespecting me, I say, listen, I believe in respectful communications, not in arguing. So if you until you can speak to me with respect, this conversation is over. Walk away and hang up every single time. If you do it 1 time out of 10, or 5 times out of 10, or even 8 times out of 10, high conflict people will continue to come at you for the reward of arguing with you those 2 times out of 10. But if you do it every single time, you set a distinct and clear message, and I guarantee you, people will quit violating your boundaries. And I'll do this on social media. I'll say, I do not argue with people on social media. If you can't have a respectful dialogue with me, then I'm done talking to you. And that's it. And they can say whatever they want. They can blare up. And the key is what a volatile, high conflict individual is going to do at this point is they're going to try to piss you off. Well, if I just say this, they want that argument to keep going. And then you're just going to be that gray rock. Nope. If you can't remove yourself, that is. Like if I'm on the phone, I'll hang up. If I'm on social media, I'll refuse to engage. If I'm in public, I will get up and walk out of the house. I will get in my car and drive away. I will leave a restaurant. If you can't do that because you're at work, then you just say, you just stop talking and turn your back. People will deal with it. They will learn. So I'm going to teach you, we're going to do a little meditation that's going to help you kind of get this, because it might seem impossible. Well, yeah, this all sounds great, Tiffani, but when I get in that situation, I'm going to lose it, or I'm not going to be able to handle it. So how can you increase the odds? How can you make it so that you are way more likely to actually implement these strategies and not fall back into your old tendencies of A, being a doormat, B, screaming back at a person, C, endlessly arguing your point to no avail with someone who's never going to see any other point but their own. So this is what we're going to do now together. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a minute. Okay. So we're going to just do this little meditation together. It doesn't take very long. And it's an adaptation of an NLP technique called the Circle of Greatness. So I want you to just close your eyes for a minute. You can turn your camera off if you want or not. It's up to you. Close your eyes for a minute, and I want you to think about a time when you felt absolutely fantastic. You felt empowered. Maybe you just got a promotion at work. Maybe you just found out that you won $1,000. Whatever it is, you felt great. And even better than that, you felt great because you accomplished something, you did something, you achieved something awesome. I want you to remember everything you saw in that moment. So you're standing there right now and you're looking around and you're experiencing that moment. You're seeing what you saw in that moment. When you accomplished, when you felt absolutely fantastic, you felt empowered. And I want you to hear what you heard in that moment. All the sounds that you heard, just hear them again. And now I want you to feel the way you felt. Feel that sense of empowerment. Tap into it. And you'll see that it's quite easy to imagine that very incident from your life, to kind of let your mind wander back in the past, and you'll see that those feelings actually come back. It's amazing how easy it is to shift your state. And now I want you to turn all of that up. I want you to turn up that feeling of empowerment. I want you to make the colors of that vision you have in your mind even more vivid and more bright. And then I want you to even Make the sounds even more crisp and clear. They become louder, more amazing. Turn the volume up on all of those three senses as high as you possibly can. And then just enjoy for a moment that feeling and that sensation. And now you're going to pick what's called a physiological trigger. So that's a physical movement that you're going to make, that every time you make that, your mind is going to be reminded of that sense of absolute empowerment and how it feels. So maybe for you, that's making a fist and putting it in your hand. Maybe it's putting your thumb to your forefinger. Maybe it's putting your hand on your right wrist. It really doesn't matter what it is, but I want you to pick some sort of physiological trigger that has meaning to you. And for me, I'm going to make a fist. So as I make this fist, I'm going to feel all of those feelings of empowerment. I'm going to see what I saw. I'm going to hear what I heard. I'm going to turn it up as high as I possibly can. And then we're going to distract ourselves for just a minute. I want you to think about what you had for breakfast this morning. Whatever it was, if you didn't eat breakfast, then you think about the fact that you didn't eat breakfast. And as you shifted your focus to something else, all of those feelings of empowerment sort of fade away. And you let go of that trigger, that physiological anchor that you picked. You're no longer making a fist or touching your fingers together. And now I want you to close your eyes again and picture that scene of empowerment and make that trigger again as soon as you can get that empowered feeling back. So I'm going to make my fist again. I'm feeling empowered. I'm seeing what I saw and hearing what I heard. And then we're going to shift our focus again and think about maybe what you're going to do this weekend. Maybe you've got plans, the weather's going to be good, and you're going to let go of that trigger and just stop thinking about that. So this weekend, I'm going to be holding arboretum at a wellness event where I'm going to be kind of sharing with people about hypnosis and about my online program and how they could overcome issues. And now close your eyes again and go back to that state where you felt empowered. See what you saw, hear what you heard, feel that sense of empowerment, turning it up in your mind as much as you can until it's incredibly powerful, and then make your physiological anchor, whatever it is for you. And then open your eyes. Now, so what you're doing when you do this is you are training your physiology and your mind to go to a place of empowerment. I would recommend you practice that a few more times. Usually if I have a client and I'm working with them on this, I'm going to do it maybe 6 times with them. I'm going to distract them, have them shift their focus, and then we're going to come back to that empowerment. What it's doing is training you to be able to access a state of empowerment at will. Okay, and you could use that. And now you're going to use it when you need it with a toxic individual that you can't escape from. If you can remove this person, remove them. But if you can't, because it's your boss and he's pissed off, or it's the lady who sits next to you at work, you can't exactly just get up and walk off your job because Betty is being toxic. Now, can you? You can't, no. So you have to deal with it. But knowing, if you think about, I'm going to change the way I deal with this. I'm going to hold my head up high. I'm not going to be a doormat. I'm going to command respect. And I'm going to say, hey, are you trying to make me look like an idiot? Or whatever it is you need to say to keep your power. If you train your brain to use that physiological trigger, you can actually make that fist, or if you, whatever, put your hand on your arm, whatever you decided to do. And in an instant, you step into that place of empowerment. And now I'm going to stand and face this toxic person. And I'm going to do it from that state of empowerment. If you think about that time when you felt amazingly empowered, you know, if someone comes at you at that time when you're feeling fantastic and you're feeling great about yourself, and they look at you and go, you know what? You know, you're less likely at that time to go, oh yeah, that's right, I'm a loser. You're not going to do that. You're feeling great about yourself. You just accomplished something great. If someone comes to you when you're in a bad state, feeling down, questioning yourself, that's when those wounds hurt. And dark triad type people kind of know when you're down, and that's when they want to step on you. You know, toxic people know you're having a bad day. That's when they're going to step on you. So that's when you need to be able to pull yourself into a state of empowerment. And you can do that with your own mind, just like you did. And if you keep working that, you can actually get to the point where I can make a fist and I instantly go to that empowered state because I've created a mind-body connection and I'm able to shift my state. You know, so if I'm dealing with Betty, the toxic, you know, employee next to me, I can make a fist. That's going to bring my mind to an empowered state. And I'm going to be way less affected by all this toxicity flying in my direction. And I'm going to be able to handle that better. I'm going to be using some of these power phrases. I'm going to be standing up and defending myself without developing an emotional reaction that's going to be unhealthy for me. And then I just wanted to say, never put yourself at risk of physical or sexual assault. Obviously, there are some people that are so toxic that if you stand up for yourself, you risk physical danger. You know, I had a situation like that where my neighborhood that I was living in was dangerous. And there was a person in the neighborhood who was known to be a drug dealer. And he accused my son of stealing money from him. And I was supposed to pay him the money my son stole. That wasn't going to happen. But I wanted to avoid death. So I pretended like, did I stand up for myself? Did I use my physiological anchor? Did I say, oh, you can't speak to me with respect, then we won't have a conversation, and turn and walk away? No, I did not. I said, oh my God, my son did that? Oh, I totally believe you. Okay, I'm going to deal with that. I might have to get the police involved. Yeah, I know my son is a problem, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now I was BSing this individual. You know, when it comes down to protecting yourself, you use whatever means to protect yourself from someone who could be physically violent or sexually assault you. If you have to lie, cheat, steal, finagle, whatever you have to do, that's not a time to stand up for yourself. I think you guys all know that, but I feel like I have to say that. Whenever you find yourself in that situation, you need to get out and get to safety. Don't worry about whether someone's disrespecting you. So, and that's it. So I hope that was helpful to you guys and you learned something beneficial today that you can use when you're dealing with people. And hopefully you don't have too many toxic people in your life.